Okay, Baruch Hashem, we are literally at the doorstep of Rosh Hashanah. Today is Sunday. We have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Wednesday night is our court date before HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I saw a very short video of a Rabbi in Yerushalayim who's very well known. His name is Rav Gamliel HaKohen Rabinovich. If I'm not mistaken, Vakshal is close to him. And he said, you know how Rosh Hashanah works? That you stand in judgment, they bring the Shulchan Aruch, and they go one siman after another to see if you kept it or not. That's your din. So some of us are going to do okay. Some of us are not going to do so well. So Hashem Yerachem. We need a lot of rachamim. So Rosh Hashanah is known to have how many days? 2 days. Was always the case 2 days? No. Kol hakavod. So it used to be when the month was declared by Beis Din, Rosh Hashanah was sometimes 1 day, sometimes 2 days. Yet, as far as we know, which we're talking about probably a few thousand years, we have not used this system of making Rosh Hashanah 1 day. And Rav Dessler says that there's a takana of Chazal. The rabbis made a takana. Takana is an ordinance that Rosh Hashanah will be 2 days everywhere. So a lot of us know that when we live outside of the state of the land of Israel, that the major festivals, Pesach, Sukkot, Shavuot, are 2 days, right? You have first and second day Yom Tov, and then you have in the end the 7th and 8th day Yom Tov, right? Everybody knows that. Is that no? And Rosh Hashanah used to be 2 days outside of Eretz Israel, but in Israel sometimes it would be 1 day, sometimes 2 days. But the Chazal made a takana that Rosh Hashanah in Eretz Israel would be 2 days. They did not make a takana that Sukkot is going to be 2 days. They did not make a takana on Pesach or Shavuos. Just Rosh Hashanah. And we're going to get a little deeper into why Rosh Hashanah needs to be 2 days. And if you're going to fall asleep, I'll give you the answer right now. The answer is there are 2 separate dinim, 2 separate trials that we go through. One on the first day and a different one on the second day. And we need to know what each one is and how or what are we supposed to do in order to prepare. Questions so far? Okay. So, Rosh Hashanah, Gemara Rosh Hashanah, Daf Lamed Amud Beis, tells us that Rosh Hashanah is 2 days because of a suffix, but then Chazal made a takana. And the question is, if it's misafek, it's because we're not sure which day is Rosh Hashanah. How is it that the second day of Rosh Hashanah we're actually praying all the brachas of Rosh Hashanah, all the tefillah of Rosh Hashanah, but it could be, b'chlal, it's not Rosh Hashanah. It's just a regular day that we've co-opted. So, how does this work? So the Zohar HaKadosh, which is what is very interesting about Rav Dessler, that you see that Rav Dessler is trying to explain to us Takana of Chazal the way through the lens of the Zohar HaKadosh. And then it gives us a different understanding of what's really going on Rosh Hashanah. So it says in the Zohar, in Parshas Pinchas, Daf Reish Lamed Aleph, it says, Tnan, Umishpat Amo Yisrael Devar Yom Beyoimu. The judgment of his people, Israel, is daily. Yom Beyomo. Means daily. So says the Zohar, Yom Beyomo Maihi. What is that? Yom Beyomo. It's an odd statement. So, although I translated it as daily, but the Zohar wants to make a diuk. It's Yom Beyomo, a day in another day, which means how many days? 2. Yeah, you don't need to take off your socks for this. Ela hanitrei yomin de Rosh Hashanah. So we have 2 days of Rosh Hashanah. That's what the pasuk is talking about. So then the Zohar asks, Amai train yomin? Begin the inun trei beidina de mitchabran kechada. Because we have 2 batei dinim, 2 courts that are connected and are judging us during this period. And it says, Dina ilah, the first day is higher level of din, and it's called the iukashya, difficult, hard. And bedina tata, the lower one, the rafya. Rafya is weak, or lighter, easier. So already the Zohar is telling us that the first day we have dina kashya. It's a difficult din. And the second day is an easier one. Yes?
Are we allowed to sleep during the Yom Tov of Rosh Hashanah? Is there something against sleeping during the day?
So that's not out of, it's a little bit out of the scope of what we're talking about. So it is a discussion, and you can sleep after Chatzot.
What time is that?
Whatever Chatzot is, you got to look it up. There's a chart, usually published in the main base, that will give you the time of Chatzot. But that's not what we're talking about. That is a little bit of a curveball, my friend. Nice try. So what does the Zohar say? The Zohar says there is a din elyon, there's a higher level of din that is called din kashe. And there's a lower din that's called din rafeh, weak. Hard. Kashe, kashya, difficult. So the Zohar tells us that really the reason that Chazal made a takana is because they knew the pnimiyas, the secret teachings of the Torah, but they didn't want to reveal it. So they just said, make Rosh Hashanah 2 days. Just make it 2 days and stop arguing. But behind the takana is a realization that we really are going through 2 separate processes of din. And the Arizal says that the 2 days, one is dealing with the pnimiyas, the world of the souls, neshamot, and the second one is dealing with olamot, the external world. Which, if you don't know too much, it's okay, but it's just an example to clarify to us that there's separate judgments, one on the first day of Rosh Hashanah and another on the second day of Rosh Hashanah. And you have to prepare yourself for each one of them. Yes?
Can you say that again? The first day is internal, is sort of the souls.
I knew whenever I use the Ari, he's like, wait a second, I got to get this down. Where does he say that? What's the movie? Can I watch something? Yeah, the Ari says that, explain that this Zohar is talking about that the first day is to repair the neshamot, the level of the neshamas. And the second day is dealing with olamot, which is the pnimius, which is the hidden aspect, and then there is the external. We're going to get into that. What does that mean as we go along? And if you want to really understand the depth of this, you have to be married and 40 to start learning this stuff. Unless you're Sephardi, then you have to be 20 and married.
I'm sorry.
What? No. But you're married? Oh. Well, you have to convince a girl to marry you first. I know it's a little bit of an obstacle. Yes, Ben.
If you have the thought of you staying in Israel for the rest of your life, but you're uncertain that you're going to be in Israel for the rest of your life because something might happen, should you hold by one day or should you hold by
On Rosh Hashanah, everywhere in the universe is 2 days. And the other days, that's a halachic question that you should ask your poisik. So you need to get a psak on that. And it's not. This is not the shiur for that. We can talk about it, but that's not what we're doing now, because you need a few more pieces of information in order to answer your question. So we're not going to be able to understand the entire depth of what's happening here, but we can try to understand it as follows. So we are aware that there are two levels in hashgacha. Hashgacha is the Hebrew term for divine providence, that God is watching over and guiding your life. And there are two levels. One level is called hashgacha pratis, individual directed hashgacha over your life. And then there is the general hashgacha of Klal Yisrael, the entire universe, and all the animals, and it's on a general level, not on a specific level. So hashgacha pratis is directed towards a person who is standing at the level that he serves Hashem lishma. He serves Hashem not for any ulterior purpose. Right? It's clear that all of you are here not for the girls. Right? Is that fair? Even that you're not willing to say, well, Rabbi, I'm in yeshiva because they told me the longer I am, the better type of girl I'm going to get. So the more I'm a tzaddik, the better it is. Good. So you're not here lishma, huh? How many here are for the food? Woo! Okay, right. The accommodations. Saw that video. Wow, Yitzchak, kol hakavod. You got a future in acting. So, Hashgacha Pratis, says Rav Dessler, we're talking about a person who has reached the level of serving Hashem lishma. He serves Hashem for the sake of serving Hashem. Not because he wants to be a millionaire, not because he wants to be like me, not because of he just wants to serve Hashem. Okay? And so therefore, through his bechira, free will, he makes decisions and he acts through his actions, his words. He reveals in his service to Hashem honor to God in the world. Okay?
Are we going to get to how you're supposed to, like the first day and the second day, how you're supposed to go into them for like...
I'm describing what is it. Now we're talking, you're going to get savlanut. Do you know what savlanut is? Patience. See, I'm a doctor, so I have some.
Well,
Doctor in what?
Philosophy.
sir.
So I have patience. How many years? How many years what? How many years did it take me? So I don't exactly, it's been a while. It took me a while, but I was one of those fortunate or unfortunate, depending how you look at it, people that as soon as I finished my doctoral exams, I got a job teaching. So I was full-time teaching while writing my book. So it took a little bit, but eventually I got done. It comes in handy. You go to a bar, hey, so how you doing? Yeah, right.
Do I have to tell the Rebbitzin something?
You have to tell the Rebbitzin something? You can. How would it help you? Right? You have to have a toilet for you. What's your toilet? So pratit, hashgacha pratis means that every individual, each one of us, Moses, is getting what he needs for his own avodas Hashem. Each one of us requires certain things to serve Hashem, and there might be different. Some people might need air conditioning. Like if there's no air conditioning, they could not do it. It's too hot, it's too cold, it's this, it's that. It won't work. Some people need a higher level of food. Some people don't need any of that. They just need a good chavrusa. Some people don't need that, they don't need this, they just need to get married. Each one of us you need a certain amount of health. Right? If a person is not feeling well, it's very hard to learn. It's very hard to put everything into it when you're not feeling well. All those things are under the Hashgacha Pratis. Everything is planned from Shammai. And so, this type follows you. It's exactly according to your maisi. And you're giving the tools you need in order to serve Hashem. And if in Shamayim they think you don't need it for whatever reason, it will be taken away from you. Like Parnasa. Sometimes things go well, money's flowing in, you can shtai, you can this, but sometimes it turned the faucet off. But all of that is directed from Shamayim for your avodas Hashem. Now, you might say, but Rabbi, I can't serve Hashem like this. This is crazy. Kadosh Baruch Hu knows best. Kadosh Baruch Hu knows best. So, when you are experiencing that something was taken away from you, it's a sign from Shamayim, says Rav Dessler, to start paying attention and seeing what you should fix. There's something you need to do tshuva for. It's not stam that something that is happening to you. So when you all of a sudden feel you're not getting the siyata dishmaya, the help from HaKadosh Baruch Hu that you need, you have to start looking at your life and say, okay, what does Hashem want me to repair? Because it's not stam that this is happening. Are you going to for sure find out what that is? No. But before you start cupcaking out, crying, oh, that's the challenge of being a human being. We don't have Nevi'im. You can't go to a Navi. If you had a Navi, you would go to the prophet and say, look, here's what happened. What am I supposed to fix? He'll tell you right away. Need this, need this, need that. You go to the Navi, you say, I'm sick. Why? He'll tell you. It's because of this. Do tshuva on that and you'll be fine. The whole point of being ill and all of that is to wake you up. Say, hey, change your life. I care about you. Yes?
Is it always something that you need to fix, or can it just be something that's just been like predetermined? This is gonna be
If we say that your life is predetermined, meaning that you don't have free will, and that essentially you are following a path that you're just sort of a robot, then you are violating the major principles of Judaism of free will and reward and punishment. If you have no free will, you can't choose, then how can God reward you or punish you?
like if you're sick, that's all like
It's all from Shamayim.
so that can always be adjusted.
Always, there's always something that from Shamayim, the Kadosh Baruch Hu is talking to you. Yeah? And don't forget, there's something called Yisurim. That in order to do proper tshuva and receive proper atonement, sometimes we have to go through Yisurim. Difficulties, sufferings. Sometimes through physical, sometimes it's emotional, sometimes it's just the frustration of what's going on. It's part of character building, part of our tikkun. We all have a tikkun to fulfill in this world, and it's a challenge to find out what the tikkun is. So when you find something that is going hard and it's not, that's your tikkun. That's what you have to work on. Some people you see they fly through the Gemara, just boom, 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 boom. Some other people it's like walking through quicksand. That's the tikkun. Sada, kadima. I knew somebody who told me that he can't learn Gemara. So I said, what does that mean you can't learn? He says, whenever I open a Gemara, I fall asleep. Legamre, out. So I said, okay. He said, I asked the rabbi, they told me my neshama is only to learn Mishnayos. So that's all I do. Okay, I don't know which rabbi. Maybe there is such a thing. Maybe. Or he'll work a little harder. Yeah. And remember, they're judging you in Shammai what you did with what Hashem gave you, with your intellect, with your background, with your difficulties, they're not comparing, Saxteen to Moshe. They're not. They're judging Moshe on Moshe. They're bringing Moshe, this is where you could be. From with everything that we gave you, this is where you should be. Are you there? Or are you not? If you are, tzaddik. Next. And they bring Yaakov Moshe and they ask, Yaakov Moshe, are you where you need to be? And they run through all the, permutations and they look at them and they go, Okay, here's what we're going to do. We'll give you 10 days to shape up. At Be'ezrat Hashem, we hope that if we're not signed in the book of Tzaddikim, and we're not signed for life immediately, at least that they give us 10 days to work on it. To turn things around. Or not, Moses. Can you walk out with that? That's like where you... I gotta go. Too much.
Is there an idea that closer it gets to Shemayim, more difficult it gets the way you should?
I didn't see something like that. It's possible. I haven't seen a source. But if you find a source, then we'll take it. I haven't seen that.
I feel like I've heard that idea.
What was this?
Again, it's possible. I don't, I don't know everything. So I don't. Yes.
It might be a bit off topic, but on that judging point, how many ministering angels, so to say, would be there in the judgment day, so to say?
They also have to go through judgment. Every creature goes through judgment. Every creature. 8 billion people, they go through judgment. All the angels, they were created by Hashem. Everybody.
How could they be judged if they don't have free will?
Ma?
How could they be judged?
That's not so pashut. There's actually a machlokes about that. Whether angels have free will or not. It's a bit of a complicated sugya that I don't want to get into it right now. But the judgment is, if you go back to my shir on the Yetzer Hara, that they were created to increase kavod to Hashem. And did they fulfill that or not? Simple. And if they did, great. They didn't, then whatever needs to happen happens. So, same thing for us. You were created. This is one of the, I'm kind of a loss of words. But when I started studying Jewish sources seriously, from the inside, not from the outside. It was from the outside when I was in university studying about Judaism. I was like, from the outside. It's like, they say this, they say that. Nice, what does that have to do with me? But once you're studying from the inside, you're no longer from the UN. You've got a dog in this fight. I noticed that Chazal tell us how much power is placed on us and how important every person is. And I'm specifically saying person and not Jew. That is, when the Torah tells you that every human being was created in the image of God. Image of God. That is, there's an aspect of divinity in every human being. The question is, does the person live according to that spiritual entity and divinity and holiness? Or does he try to stuff it into his pants and ignore it completely? You can meet people who are very, very spiritual, very good people that are trying to do they're not Jewish. Sorry. And you can meet Jewish people who are very, very far from their tzelem. But each person, as the Mishnah in Avos says, were created lichvod Hashem. We were all created, even you, laharbo, to increase kavod to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. We have a role to play in this universe. A tremendous important role. The problem is a lot of people don't want to take that into their lives and say, wow, my life really is meaningful. Either they refuse to, or they can't, or whatever reason it is, or they're taught not to think of that, and to think they're worthless, their life is meaningless, there's no importance to it, and they're depressed, and they can't find themselves, they don't know what to do with their lives. It's such a terrible thing to do that, where Chazal tell us, look, that's what Hashem is doing to each and every one of us. And Rosh Hashanah is that opportunity to say, hey, am I living according to what Hashem wants me to? Am I mar bekavod to HaKadosh Baruch Hu? In the way that I what? The way I treat myself, the way I treat my surroundings, the way I treat others. Am I mar bekavod to Hashem? Because I'm important. And No one is a mistake. Even if your mother tells you you were a mistake, you're not. Kadosh Baruch Hu did not make a mistake by creating you the way that He created you. There are people who complain to Hashem. Why do I look like this? Why is this? Why do I have this? Why ADD, HD, TV, whatever, all these. Kadosh Baruch Hu created you with those entities. And there are two ways. Either you serve Hashem with your ADD, or Hashem wants you to overcome that so He can give you greater reward. To start out by thinking that Hashem dealt me this terrible hand to make my life miserable, to ruin it for me. No, baby. Come on. Khalas. That's not going to work. So, that was almost a rant. But I think that, for me, looking at Chazal, the way they describe what a human being is, you can't look down at what a human being is. You see the tremendous kedusha and potential that every human being has. And yet, a lot of them choose to squash it and not develop it and invest it in things that are just silly. For what? For fun? There are people who live life for fun. Fun and simcha are not the same. We are supposed to live besimcha and serve Hashem besimcha, happily, with happiness, but not fun. Fun is something that if you do over and over and over, it's boring. Imagine if you went to Disneyland and you went to the Matterhorn. Right? You went once, it's a lot of fun. Second time, okay. Third, okay. But after the fifth, sixth, seventh time, it's boring. It's like, let's go to something else. But something that brings you simcha, you can keep doing it over and over and over. And you just become happier and happy. Tov. So we have Hashgacha Pratis. Hashgacha Pratis means that Kadosh Baruch Hu is very precise in His judgment, because He knows exactly what He gave you. He knows exactly what you did with it. He knows exactly what you could have done with it. And He knows what the expectations were. But there is Hashgacha Klali, general divine providence, of the way that God runs the world to take care of all those who don't serve Hashem at all. Or people who serve God, but they're not doing it by being aware. They don't think about it. There are some people you ask them, do you think about Hashem? You think about God? And the guy says, well, look, I wake up in the morning, I go to the bathroom, do what I need, I say my brachas, go daven, and then, take the kids, take them to daycare, run to the kollel. Who has time to think about God? What? There are people who actually daven the whole shachris, and you say, what day is today? Like, I don't know. Well, did you say Hayom Yom? Oh yeah. Hayom Yom Yom Rishon b'Shah. Oh, so you already now are aware of Yom Rishon. That's not what serving Hashem is. We want to serve Hashem not like that. We want not like behind Moshe. That's not it. We want to serve Hashem with being aware, with having forethought, planning. So, person who lives a life without thinking of what he can do to increase kavod Hashem, then he lives his life essentially that he's helping a tzaddik in his service of God. That is, he's just a tool. Because he's not increasing kavod to Hashem, but through his existence, he's got a business, he's working, and he's producing, let's say, cheese, and this cheese he sells, and the tzaddik buys some cheese, right? He has a tool in helping others. And therefore he becomes simply a kli, a vessel, for others to serve Hashem. Now, so a tzaddik is the one that has hashgacha pratis, and those who are not interested, they don't want to play, they don't want to get on the board. They essentially have hashgacha klali. And so, the Gedel of Rosh Hashanah, the first day, is the judgment of the tzaddik. That is, they take you as an individual with regard to Hashem, and they see what have you done with what we've given you. And that sometimes is not an easy judgment. I am sure there isn't a category of how many hours of screen time have you had during the year. The more, the better. I don't think there's a category like that. How many YouTube videos did you scroll during 1 month in Elul? I'm sure that's no category like that. But there is a category of how many Maisim Tovim have you done? How much Gemara did you sit and learn? They don't count pages. They count the time and effort. So you could have somebody sitting in a table for an hour, 2 hours, just learning this piece, and somebody else is sitting for those 2 hours and going through 8 dafs. And the person who did like this would get more. So let's stop here and continue tomorrow in Mirtzeh Hashem. Mincha.
Thank you.